distract me from what is on my shoulders, what is crushing my back, the very weight on my very heart. Hello and welcome to this video. I'm so excited to share with you this really special interview with Andrea Miller. Andrea Miller is a choreographer and she's the creative director of the world-renowned multidisciplinary organization GALLIM. In this interview, we talk a lot about dance and healing and how those things come together. And Andrea is full of some beautiful pearls that she shares throughout the interview. So definitely stay through the end. If you're new to my channel, welcome again. My name is Tumi. I am a dancer, a poet, and a medical doctor. And I help people uncover and nurture their best, healthiest, their most delicious lives through my healing dances that I perform and my expertise as a holistic physician. On this channel, I love creating videos around holistic health tips in general, minimalism or voluntary simplicity as a radical act of health and well-being, and lots of dance. If any of that sounds interesting to you, then consider subscribing down below and click the notifications bell next to it so you know when a new video of mine comes up. Enjoy this interview. I'm so excited for this conversation with you. Thank you so much for sitting with me and talking a little bit about dance and healing. And I thought we would start by me, if you're okay, reading just a little bit about your work with GALLIM. Would that be okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. Let me go ahead and pull that up. I am going to look at my notes because Andrea's bio is definitely illustrious and amazing. So let me start. Andrea Miller is a choreographer, creative director, and founder of the internationally renowned multidisciplinary organization, GALLIM, working in live and digital movement expression and education. Miller's works for theater, film, fashion, and dance have been described as ancient as they are ultra-modern. A Guggenheim, Sadler-Wells, and Princess Grace Fellow, Miller is the first ever choreographer to be named Artist in Residency at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And in 2017, she was featured in Forbes magazine for entrepreneurial leadership in the arts. Miller is currently working deeply in film and site-specific work, and recently conceived of You Are Here, a sound, sculpture, and performance installation for Lincoln Center with 25 community members processing the pandemic through breath, music, theater, and dance. Her films and dance works have been screened, performed worldwide at venues including the Metropolitan Museum of Art, Guggenheim Museum, Art Basel, Lincoln Center, Kennedy Center, the Joyce, Jacob's Pillow, BAM, Royal Albert Hall, Sadler-Wells, Cheyeux de Paris, Teatro Nacional de Panama, and more. Additional recent commissions include New York City Ballet, Martha Graham Dance Company, Pennsylvania Ballet, Rambert II, Ailey II, and the Juilliard School. Miller is an adjunct professor at Marymount Manhattan College and guest faculty at the Juilliard School. Her repertory, creative methodology, and dance training are taught across the country being the United States of America, just to be clear.
Yes.
There's an international audience here. So, wow, right? Like, just, yeah. Thank you for being here, Andrea, with us.
I'm so happy to be here, Jimmy. Thank you so much for I guess always the warmth and conversation that we've had. It's always such a pleasure to talk with you and to learn from you and share together. So thank you for this opportunity to be with you.
I thought I would start by just, that bio is incredible. And I thought I would bring one person's personal story of how GALLIM has touched lives, my story of how I came into recognition and like a tactile, it felt like understanding of what you are doing you continue to do with GALLIM. The first time I saw GALLIM perform, I'm pretty sure it was 2009. It was at BAM, Fisher Hall, Brooklyn Academy of Museum. I had just come back from Africa, from West Africa. It's been about a year working with Doctors Without Borders as a field doctor, taking care of literally starving children. And it had been a year of just my heart breaking open and deepening into being what it means to be healer and physician. And I was also a dancer. I still am a dancer. When I came back to New York, I was working as a hospitalist in NYU. I was dancing in a beginning contemporary modern ballet company in New York. And I was just like, how do I do these two things? These things seem, they're both my heart. They feel like my calling, being a doctor and healer, and dancing, performing. I can't reconcile them, seemingly, but yet I need them. I need to do them. And a friend of mine, not knowing any of my dilemma, she was a professional friend, she was a physician, invited me to see GALLIM. She was somebody who knew you. And so I went to BAM, not knowing anything about this company. And I just remember the moment watching, I think it was Blush. And I was watching your incredible dancers moving, and your choreography, your dance making, the way, the lushness and awkwardness and virtuosity and the feeling of it's the first time I've talked about this. So it's the feeling of just feeling like my body was being flooded by recognition and compassion and wowness all at the same time. And I was sitting there, this broken young woman, this young doctor, feeling like how this human, this young dancer, and all of my parts just felt like they came together. And that was the moment where I said to myself, oh, dancing can be part of my medicine bag. Dancing can be absolutely healing. Before then, I'd seen beautiful, also virtuosic dancing, but it also always felt for me as entertainment, as strictly performance. And that's where I saw performance and healing come together, was watching your creations through those really beautiful, amazing dancers. So that's how I got introduced to GALLIM, and I wanted to share that with you because I don't think I've...
Speechless. So beautiful and generous of you.
It was a gift for me. It was a gift for me. And I think since then, it really changed the trajectory of my career completely, to be now being a dancer and a doctor, and those two things being completely intertwined in the work that I do, creating healing dances. But you are a huge part of me understanding that it's possible to do that. So my first question for you around this is, I'm
very speechless. This is going to be a terrible interview. I'm like, I don't have words.
That's the best. It's just from the heart. How do you feel, Andrea? I know a lot about dance. There's a lot in society about dance therapy, and I think dance therapy is incredible. It's a whole school and a whole philosophy and a whole practice in of itself. But what always pulled me was dance performance as being healing. And I'm curious to know, as being an incredible, one of the top, I believe, choreographers in the world, in my opinion, how do you feel that people watching dancing can support well-being, both on an individual level, but also on a societal, political level? How can the taking in of dance be healing? What are your thoughts around that?
Well, I mean, I think it definitely, everybody's relationship with dance and their craft or as an artist is so unique. And I would say that healing is very much an intention for me when I work. So that the fact that it comes, whether it's successful or not is another thing, in doing that. But the fact that it had this impact for you, and it's very moving to me. It's extremely moving, because I don't know if I know how to do it right, but I just know that it's urgent for me to try. Mm-hmm. And so I think that it starts with sort of just like, what is the approach of the creative person. It doesn't always have to be that they want healing to be part of it, and it still can heal, but what I've discovered with dance, and what I think has been very important for me with dance, is that it is the most direct relationship to human experience that hasn't been interpreted or corrupted or edited. Like, even when you write, you need it to be published, you need it to get on a page. In music, you have your instrument, and all of these are such extremely important revelations of the soul. But movement, there's no editor, there's no processor. There's just me being, without reducing myself to, I could be an identity. You can see me and you can decide things from what you see in me, but the truth is that I'm representing my complex, ever-changing, moving soul. And it's actually moving and changing in the moment that I'm dancing for you. And in the moment that even if it's a rehearsed material, it's still that unique moment and that unique time. So I get very excited about the ability of being so completely authentic with movement. And it's not to say that you can't lie, or you can't create things that are purposefully not authentic, that they're purposefully performative in one way or another. You can manipulate it, you can, but ultimately you also have the power to be completely vulnerable, to look for communion, to look for connection. And it's the closest for me, it's the closest medium for understanding the moment that we're in. Because already tomorrow's another day. Already the conversation has moved, is shifted, is being spun. But in movement, you can take with a gesture, and you can say, "This is now. For me, this is now." And really, no one can try to. I mean, they can try and shut you down. They can try and erase it, but it's almost it's a fact, and it's so true. It's such a truthful fact, and it's very exciting. I feel it's very powerful, and I also feel I feel like it's you can say, like, oh, I'm a tap dancer, or I'm this kind of a ballet dancer, or a modern dancer, whatever, but ultimately, like, really no one can dance like you dance. Even if you say you're doing tap, or you're doing this kind of specific type of modern dance, Graham, you're not Martha Graham. You're really you, and no one else can do it like you're going to do it. And I think that like submission to being like, you are this individual, irreplaceable, irreplicable. You can be part of a community. You can feel represented and shared by other parts of how you're dancing. But ultimately, we will see you as an individual. And that is so radical and so special.
Radical and special and so needed. The idea of being seen, each individual is being seen. Mm-hmm. you said so many things that I just was sparked. And I feel like one of the things you said that just stopped me was this idea of the dancer and the dance maker, either two different people, be able to say, for me, this is now. And as a holistic physician, my ear hears the now. My ear hears presence, is what I feel like you're sharing, as affirmed by the bird. Nowness, right? And the vulnerability of nowness. I love that you use the word vulnerability, because as what I see a lot of times with people who are in the healing journey, and we all are, I believe, healing, the etymology of that is wholeness. So we don't need to be sick to be healing. Right. And I feel like when people are on an intentional, or they're in the desire to heal, there's something about witnessing vulnerability that I think helps people feel, and I can speak for myself as somebody who has been in the throes of dis-ease also, to feel like seen and to feel not alone, and to feel like if she can do that, she can be naked on this stage, letting me see her, all her parts, she can be performing, but in this way, as you said, of authenticity. I can be here. I can also show myself. I think vulnerability and is such a huge part of allowing wellness.
Yes. And community, because you can be vulnerable in your own room, in your own quiet space, but vulnerability is an expression of wanting to trust. Mm. You want to trust, which is also an expression of hopefulness, of like that you want to trust, and you want to have faith that in your vulnerability you're going to be held, and you're not going to be shut down, or and then I think there's also some sense of not just trust in like in the community, or trust in blind faith, but you're also trusting yourself also to have resilience, to learn resilience, to learn, okay, I can be vulnerable because I can survive. Maybe I'll have some hits and some blows and things I'll have to learn, but I'll be able to survive whatever comes from this vulnerability. So it's trust in the space that you're sharing this with, but also trust in yourself that like you'll make it. Yeah. It's really exciting. It's a strength. Vulnerability is a total strength.
I love how you mentioned about vulnerability, but also this idea of I'm not going to die. I can, basic. I don't want to use the word safety because that seems like it's not, but I think that the two can coexist. The idea of being vulnerable but still taking care of yourself, right? And maybe that's also where sometimes performative or even lies can come in. It's the idea of I will reveal myself to you, and I will also take care of this. And I think there's also something healing about seeing somebody do that for you. That dancer is there, she or he or they are just doing their thing, and they could fall or whatever at any point, or it could be awkward, or
right.
And yet they're centered.
Yeah.
And I love that, and I feel like that's also can be a huge healing point for people to realize that, I can be whole and healing and sick and vulnerable, but self-care is still a part of what is going on here.
Performance is an act of catharsis in many ways for both the audience and the performer. It's giving a space in our culture that it's a space that we say that we can. Catharsis is like a important part of what we do, but it takes creating an environment for us, a ritual for us to give permission to each other as audience and to the performers to do you know, the work, the labor of the investment in catharsis. And so, I mean, it's totally fundamental to, I think, our humanity. And what I see it as is as this sort of this unique alchemy. Performance, you know, you have this, the witness people witnessing, and you have the performer. Sometimes they're interchangeable. There's fluidity potentially there, but ultimately, like, that's the setup. And by giving those simple, like, you know, I'm going to put this little powder with this little rock, and then it's the alchemy of performance. It will reveal this thing to us, this chance for us to transcend the tasks of the day, you can even bring the mundaneness and give it an importance, the mundaneness of, like, finding food or whatever it is, and elevate it to something that's spiritual. So I think performance, and with dance, is just so important for everybody, for the performer, for the audience, and it's a space that if we kind of lose, I really wonder where we're going to put that need. You know, where are we going to put that? I think there's, like, religion in some ways even though I have nothing against religion, but I find some people might interpret this, but it is a form of creating a performance for the desired effect of transcendence, the desired effect of going to someplace, you know, bigger. We need it.
I absolutely agree. And I love how you brought in spirituality and this idea of community or tribe. And I think dance is also pre-verbal. Before, written language, little humans we're literally dancing in the amniotic fluid of our mothers in the womb. We come out dancing, I really believe.
Wasn't that amazing when you see you're like, that's a foot in my stomach, just pushing through, like trying to understand their edges, their
boundaries, and
their boundaries. And by knowing boundary, they also know their shape. I was blown away to have that experience. They're dancing.
Same here. It's incredible. And how it starts from that little being, but then ripples out to the entire society, like you said. How does community hold a receptacle, a safe space for catharsis? That's a beautiful word to bring into the conversation. And I feel like what I'd love to ask you now is bringing it to the personal and maybe the pre-performance, which is, maybe you could share with us, if you're open to it, a little bit about your dance practice. If you're willing to share, like, what it looks like, and if and how you found it to be healing. And by that, I mean maybe dance making or actual dance movement. Do you have a daily ritual practice? What does it look like? How have you found that to be healing for you?
I have not danced enough recently, so it is sort of something that, and I notice that I get sad when I don't dance regularly. But I think that I've sort of figured out how, like, what is it about dance that can be physicalized, but can also be like when I'm walking, or, like, or taking a shower, or any act of life. I've sort of kind of brought it in to my daily life, and I actually started doing that when I was a young dancer, where I would realize I didn't have enough time to warm up. So while I was walking to the studio, I would already start to feel like I was being very intentional about understanding my steps and my weight and my how it is to shift weight, or to look across the street and see my whole spine turning. And so even as a young dancer, everything, even going to the bathroom, like everything became for me like a something very curious about how the body is experiencing, and can also maybe do a little bit more with this moment, take a little more in from this moment. So maybe that's why I feel okay if I'm not, doing my like actual dance class work, which I would love to do, more regularly. But it feels very built into, my days, in my in my daily life, in my daily movement.
I love that you said that, Andrea, because I think a lot of people struggle with this idea of, I want to be doing more of this thing, this art, whatever that art is, dance being one of them. And for whatever reason, they're not. And it reminds me of this thing that the late Thich Nhat Hanh, I think the title of the book, it was well worn when I had it, was called Peace is Every Step. And I feel like the whole idea, I think the thrust behind it was that meditation is not just when you're, lotus positioned oming, right? How do you bring mindfulness to everything you're doing, from washing the dishes to every walking? And I feel like I could just swap that out with the word dance, right? How can I bring dance to everything if I want to? Sometimes I don't want to, but if I want to,
Yes.
to everything. I love that you brought that. And I'm curious because you said something about the way you phrased it. It was lovely. You said there's something about dance that I can bring into. So what is it about dance? I feel like I would love for you to flesh it out. What is it about dance that you're bringing into these things, these mundane, so to speak, or normal life things, that makes it much more special or more like dance? What is it you're bringing from there?
I think it's like bringing my animal and also my, I don't know, my consciousness, or my spirit. Not that animals don't have spirits, but, and I don't love separating them, but in many ways I just feel like I could move around, like just with my mind, understanding what's around me and doing the things I need to do, but I bring my skin, I bring my bones, I bring my muscles to where I am, and I don't let it just be my eyeballs, which is easy to do. And so I think it's like, just noticing my spine. Now I'm driving a lot because I moved out of the city, and I've always walked. I've lived in Tel Aviv, or I've lived in New York City. I've always walked everywhere. So it's very crazy for me to now be driving. And so now I'm like trying to figure out, how am I going to dance while I drive? Because I can't just become this chair. I could just become this chair that has eyeballs, and my eyeballs can like move my hands. So I think that it's, like heightening the sensations of the body, and the awareness of, your physicality. But I think it's also making sure that there is some sort of, maybe there's joy in it. Maybe I'm listening to music and I want to fill myself with some joy. I want to fill or maybe not, other energies. But I think that's where the spirituality sort of will fill in. It's not just, I don't feel like I'm just like an anatomy researcher about like, how can I make more mobility in my joints? But it's, what is this consciousness? What is like being aware of my animal giving me beyond that in this moment? Maybe more attention, more perception, more listening skills. Maybe I'm protecting myself in this moment. Maybe the behavior I'm doing, I'm trying to create like a little bit of distance, you know, just learning what psychologically, I guess, also the behavior of my animal is trying to tell me.
I love that. The animal and the spirit. And yeah, I also agree they're interconnected, but I love there's something maybe primal, right, that you bring to the table, the animal. There's something maybe more ephemeral and boundary-less with the idea of spirit. I love that you brought those in. I'm curious to know, when you do that, there's something about that also as you were talking that feels like, and that I've experienced, it feels like time also slows down, not in the way where, again, you can almost like extract more juice from life in a way, right? And you can listen more to, you know, that still small voice, that thing of how do I navigate this moment, this time. And so, but without putting that on you, I'm curious to know, what is the benefit? What is the grace? What is the gift of doing that for you that you've experienced?
I think that, you know, because we are conscious of our death, we're conscious of time, we naturally can become very anxious creatures, you know. It's just normal. Like, you know, you have a sense of uncertainty, feelings of potential. We have impermanence. Like, we are impermanent. And so what's our value or meaning in life? What have we gotten done? What are we going to be celebrated for or remembered for? And so you have this, and I think that creates a sense of like, I don't know the word, 1 second. Insignificance, potential insignificance. You know, like, I don't think a squirrel is worrying about their significance, you know. So I don't know, maybe they are, but I do know that as humans, we are aware of time, which then creates this tension around impermanence, which then results in this worry of insignificance. And so, it's just normal that anxiety is part of being human. So I think what it does for me is that it just like, and I don't know, maybe I'm avoiding that, but I don't think I am. I think that I'm valuing the moments that I'm in and calling them like, this is my life. And so these are the minutes I have. So I'm just going to try to be, you know, be really inside of them, really within it, like really present. And, like, I didn't notice that my computer was not charged. So it does give you some problems to work, you know, functionally sometimes. But I love it. I feel like I have gotten a lot of gifts from life as a result of that way of, I don't know, experiencing time. I very much don't, my dancers know this, when some dancers are like, oh, the performance, it just went by so fast. Like, it was just like over all of a sudden. And I was like, no, that's not a good thing. I don't like that. Yeah. I don't like that. I mean, of course it's wonderful if you had fun and you enjoyed it and it just felt like, whoa, that just disappeared. But I really want you to indulge in every moment. I want you to take so much in that it, you know, if it was 60 minutes, you felt 60 minutes. It didn't feel like 5.
Wow. I feel that's so, I feel that with the dances of yours that I've seen. I feel this allowing of myself to exhale and to marinate in them. It just like, and it's not that it's not like you're doing Buto. It's not that everyone's going, it's not that. They're quick, amazing, but the idea of, I love how you just worded that. I feel the sense of like, I'm very much so in the moment, and the moment doesn't just whip by. I'm there. I'm all senses and sixth sense is engaged. So I love that you said that. Something that was coming up for me as you were sharing was my experience with a lot of patients of mine who don't consider themselves to be dancers at all. But when they see dance, there's also that feeling of like, oh, I can exhale. I can just be, and for so many people the tension is being held all the time, in now there's all these studies around, excess cortisol and what it's doing to our brain, and it's not good, and what it's doing to, glucose intolerance and diabetes, and it's not like a Western thing, it's a worldwide thing. And we can distill it to stress, to anxiety, whether it's physical anxiety from what we take in somehow, or the mental stress and emotional stress and energetic stress from not being happy, from not feeling safe in our communities.
That's massive.
Huge, right?
I mean,
especially in this time. So to watch something that puts you in touch with your humanity, where you see somebody, again, being vulnerable, but also taking care of themselves, where you are watching something, like you said so beautifully, you can exhale during.
Yeah.
That's medicine.
I mean, you bring up the feeling of, insecurity, and not feeling safe, not just like emotional insecurity, but I mean like actual insecurity, whether it's I'm not feeling safe around food, violence, education, like all those things. I really, really think that, and beyond that, not just in that extreme, but not necessarily extreme because it's kind of pervasive, like that's the majority of the world. But dance is just everywhere, right? Like I think about that and I'm like, that doesn't get somehow, generally speaking, erased. When everything else is like just like there's not enough time or room or opportunity or what, but dance is there, unless there's a very oppressive cultural identity that says dancing is like illegal, like you can't dance. Of course, it's not going to be there, but in general, and it just got to mean something, right? Like it's got to mean something that dance is going to be there. So whether you're in that situation or not, like this is healing, this is important, this is vital. Do it. Just do it. Just dance. Just put some music on and dance. If you don't have music, dance. Watch dance. It is vital. And you just look around the world and you know it. There's not one corner of the earth that doesn't. And look at TikTok. I mean, it's like the majority of it is dance.
Yeah.
The majority of TikTok is dance.
Great point.
It's fundamental to our well-being.
I think it's literally, you were saying in the beginning about how you don't need this and this, and I'm also somebody who's, a minimalist, if you want to put that label on. I have like 20 pieces of clothing. I don't have a lot of stuff, and it's been part of my healing journey. But one of the things that probably, I've been dancing since I was very little, but I think one thing I love about being a dancer, I don't need the instrument is my body. So you can be, like you said, in any corner of the world, but you don't need a pen. And I love writing also, but I don't even need my journal, my paper, my pen. I don't need shoes. Given the dance styles I grew up with and West African dance, I don't need shoes. I don't think any dancer needs shoes. Our body, right, is like all we need.
You can actually even also make music.
Yeah.
Like you can,
right? Like, so any corner of the world, including the womb, dancing is happening. Right. And I love that you said that. I feel that this is a beautiful segue because I want to honor your time to talking about. A lot of people feel like I don't have access to dance. I want to dance more. I don't have access to dance classes. I don't have access to dance performance, to going to see dance. And it's almost like a leading question because I will share with you that, I live in the mountains in the pine trees of the Canary Islands most of the year, maybe 7 months out of the year, and the rest of the time we're traveling. But most of the time I'm creating dance, I'm doing dance in completely in nature. Now that is beautiful, and it's my choice. And I lived in New York City for 10 years, and I loved rolling out of bed and being able to go down to Dance Space or DNA or wherever and just do class upon class, or Gallim would come in, or somebody would come in, I would take a master class, or dancing for a dance company. My question is, what would you say to somebody who says, I'm in the pine trees somewhere in the world, or I'm in a place where dance is illegal, or I can't get to it because my community is not safe, or I don't have the finances to take. What are options out there? And this leading, because I've been able to take advantage of some of the amazing digital offerings that Gallim has. So I'd love for you just to answer that question broadly, but also share a little bit about what Gallim offers to people all over the world in terms of dance.
Well, I mean, I do think, like you described it perfectly, that really if there's not access or means, or just, there's really a way to, even if it's with a small community, a few friends, you really can build a practice together. And I highly recommend believing in improvisation. Like, improvisation is your free university, like your YouTube university. Because improvisation, you're learning about your body and how it works. You're discovering, its mobility. You're discovering its limitations, its availability. You're also learning at the same time your own personal expression and the way you like to move with that. You're learning. I mean, you can get sick of yourself, and I understand that, and we have to that's why it's good to have a little bit of community around that. But improvisation, where you just follow your curiosity, you follow the curiosity of your body, you follow the curiosity of your fantasy and your imagination, you follow the moment that you're in, maybe the emotional moment you're in. I think that it's not, don't think that that's not enough. Like, oh, I'm just doing my own little thing. Like, that is ultimately where most of these techniques, these things we call, Graham or whatever, it came from that practice of just improvising, figuring out a value system around how you like to move. And then it becomes codified technique that people can make money off of and charge lots of money. So one, I would say, believe in improvisation. I mean, if you do have access to internet, computer, there's a lot of free virtual classes that are starting to emerge. And Gallim has our Jam and Toast once a week on Instagram, and I teach there, other teachers teach there, and it's up all week. So if you miss it when we do it on Monday mornings, you can do it any time of the day. And other people are doing that and trying to make dance more accessible. And it's a big problem. Dance has been extremely, dance in the sense of especially traditional Western techniques have been extremely exclusive, racist, not doing enough at all. So there's an opportunity. I think everybody's slowly, trying to do more and trying to, reckon with that. So there's just more things that are emerging and more opportunities that are emerging. And I think definitely it's a small dance community. So when you find one friend who's doing something, they'll introduce you to another friend. They'll give you ideas of where you can go. And so I think it's just starting your journey. Just start your little journey, and it will grow and grow and grow and become bigger. And but I wouldn't say, I would just really, really wish that people believe that what they have to say about dance is as interesting and as valuable as maybe, you know, what you see in some, I don't know, celebrated technique or choreographer. You can really become your own light.
What a beautiful, beautiful response for somebody also who is so humble and generous and who has her work in celebrated venues. That's a beautiful, and I think will be is for me, and I know will be for other people, such a healing answer. There were two things I wanted to jump off with that. I think one thing was just to jump off and say, Jam and Toast, I have loved. Oh my God, are you like, the pandemic has been, there's so many things to say about the pandemic, but I think one of the silver linings, if I could say that word around it, has been just the creativity with dance companies and dance organizations and how can we reach people digitally. And I feel like GALLIM has been an incredible creative force on the forefront of that, because Jam and Toast, and I've been in the pine trees before, pre-pandemic, and improvisation is a huge part of my process and my daily dance practice. I love that you said it's a university. And it brings back presence, which I find to be incredibly healing, right? It's all about presence and listening. But Jam and Toast, to be able to like connect, many times I wasn't able to make it in the live, but just the replays that you generously put up all week. So anybody who's not familiar with that, please check that out. I would just go to GALLIM's Instagram page and click on Jam and Toast. I don't know if you're still doing it, because I think at some point you announced you are not, but in the past I know it was there, and maybe it will be again in the future. But it's just it's a taste of what GALLIM offers. Also your interviews, what are they called? They're so cute.
Happy hour?
Yes, happy hour with other dance makers and creatives, inspiring. And I can't speak enough, I think, about your generosity, Andrea, I think through GALLIM, not just in your dance making, but in how I feel like you reach out to different bodies and different community bodies and really address questions, I feel like, around what it is to be human, what it is to be in community, in a curious and brave way. So thank you for that, for the work you do. I have one more question, and then I would love for you to maybe round out by just sharing a little bit more about what you're currently excited with through GALLIM to be doing and offering and creating. The last question has to do with, I feel like one of the amazing awards you got had to do with being an entrepreneur. And I think this channel tends to attract a lot of creatives, creative-minded people who are wanting to create work. And at some point, for many reasons, I was not happy with the institution of medicine. And I'm still a physician. I love being a physician. I love taking care of people, but I've married it now with dance. And the way I had to do it personally was to create my own kind of craft and my own business where healing dances came together with. I went to Paris to do that. I left my hospitalist job and my professorship job. And my question is about being an entrepreneur and be a creative entrepreneur. And any words of encouragement and inspiration is being one yourself, of doing that thing that's within your heart that might not be maybe being done before. Because I think GALLIM has also been amazing that way. Your dance is very unique, the dance making, I believe. And maybe not, and how to do that in a way that feeds your heart and feeds your soul, but also maybe feeds you practically. Anything you have on that, I think, would be lovely to hear, and maybe your experience and thoughts about that.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
a whole hour on that, but
Yeah, no, I mean, oof, it's so much. Well, I think that the United States has, and I'm not suggesting that the other places are any better or worse or anything, but at least just what I know from trying to make art in the United States is that it's very challenging to there's just collectively in our culture, art making, dance making isn't very far on the list up there. So I guess if it's important to me and I live here, my children are here, I have to make it where it doesn't. I have to make a space where there isn't a space and become that space.
Mm-hmm.
And in becoming that space, you immediately realize that there's infrastructure and there's just so much that building something that will thrive, that will support others. And so I think entrepreneurship really started with really wanting to fulfill my own vision for what dance could be, but then it really quickly became something about wanting to do this with community.
Yeah.
And have education be a big part of it. So I think I was so lucky that early on that became built into my structure. Because I don't know if I had just followed dance and just wanted to be like, I just want to make my dances and that's what I want to do. I don't know if I would have survived some of the challenges of recession, the pandemic. And so I think this investment for me personally in community and education and art making and it becoming this thing that helps us roll, like a wheel, was really, really critical. And I think entrepreneurship ultimately does become about the community that you're relating to as the people who are buying your product or participating in what you're doing, and also so the people you're making it for and the people you're making it with. And that's a very simplistic way of breaking down entrepreneurship and wanting to see that their labor and their value is raised up, is supported. I love it. I love it as much as I love making dances. I love that part of my work. I think if I didn't like that part of my work, it would be really, really difficult because sometimes it's way more doing that than it is making dances. And if I didn't see it as an act of creativity and as an act of art making in some ways, I think it would be really miserable, but I do. And so, and I think because of that, I've met such incredible people who now I can't say that GALLIM is not me. It is these just amazing humans that I get to work with that are like jam and toast. Some of these ideas, they came from my colleagues. They came, I think that was an idea of Navarra, our programming director, and it becomes bigger and makes more impact, and it's just so exciting. So I don't know if I'm answering your question per se, but it is a big part of art making. It's not just the dance. It's not just in this this space, and everything else is like the hustle.
Yeah.
Which is a hustle. It's a lot of hustling.
But I think there's so much of what I love what you're saying. What I'm hearing is, first of all, just think about the hustle parts. I think you're bringing a reframing almost of the hustle. I think you're saying it is like, let's call it what it is. And how is this a creative act as well? And I think that's incredible to think about other parts of it that might not be so outwardly or obviously acts of creativity, being creative, but also the idea of passion, your passion, meeting service. Because I think when you talk about the education, the community, that's about like what is within me, the fact that I want to dance and create dance, how do I then make that something of service, of good to my world. And I think I love that you said that, because I feel like that is something that I definitely feel from GALLIM. And I love that you're also pointing that as being one of the ways you've been successful. So thank you for mentioning that. I'll just say, in my little world, I have definitely found that for me, the dance and healing, seeing how can dance be medicine, is again how the dance becomes of service to other people. And that makes it, gives it for me a sense of,
And how do you do it? How do you like realize that practice? What's your practice? I know that's a huge question, but how have you achieved in some ways this pursuit?
I ran away from New York for a little bit, because I was like, I have to do something completely different that's not on the table. I moved to Paris, and I saw something called Danse sa vie, which was a retrospective of all the dance since yes, I saw it I happened to be there the year I was in Paris, and I saw it like 3 times.
I missed it.
What?
But I missed it.
It was.
By chance, get the book?
No, but the fact
that I can't find it anywhere.
I just influx, and I think the thing I took away from there, to answer your question, is like, anything is possible, and I have to do this, and and thanks to Blush and you, I have to honor all parts of myself. And so I came back and started creating a practice in which I saw my patients. I hated only spending 10 minutes with patients in the hospital. I could not stand it. It doesn't make sense. It's not healing. It's weird. So I started creating my own holistic practice where I can see patients for an hour, bring in yoga, bring in my own empathy from dance, not making them dance, just bringing that in, my nutrition, all of that. And then the next step was then creating healing dances. So dances with the intention. You use the word intentionality at the beginning of this, and it's a beautiful kind of full circle. I think intentionality is so huge. And you're right, there's dance out there that's not meant to be healing, and it is for some people, but there's something about, I think, the intentionality behind it. I feel it from your work, Andrea. And so I started creating dances using my knowledge of Western medicine and diagnostic medicine and how the limbs and the anatomy works, but also my training in yoga and Ayurvedic medicine and chakra, to create movement that was helped to ignite healing in other people, including myself, not just other people. And so now I create healing dances that are doing just that in different realms of healing, immune health, digestive health. And I put that out in the world. And I also see my patients one-on-one. And I just created something that feels, and it continues to be a work in progress, right? In terms of my dance work life, that feels like it's aligned with my soul, and also self-caring, that honors me and is of service to the world by doing what I love. That's the short answer to your.
Are your patients intimidated or nervous about bringing movement into their healing?
Great question. So to clarify, they don't have to do a thing. So the healing dances, they can just watch, which is why I love talking to you about just how watching can be. So they can just watch. If they want to, they can move with it, right? So the healing dances are like films they can actually watch and just take in. That in itself is a medicine.
I've seen those. That's beautiful. You shared some of them with me.
Thank you. And outside of that, I then just offer holistic, but even me as the physician, because I'm dancing with that intention, when I then speak to them about, here's what you can now do practically to shift your health, it's already been shifted. Alchemy has already happened through my body to then speak in a way that resonates with them. And they're now opened up to take what I'm giving them in a way that's like, this woman cares, this person cares, this person has been vulnerable with me, and I can see the truth within her that resonates with my truth. And then I feel like the medicine takes care of itself. That's been my experience with this work. Yeah. Thank you, Andrea, for asking. I'd love to just round out our conversation. I feel like I could speak to you for hours, but again, honoring your time. Can you just share with us what you're creating right now, what you're excited to create, and through GALLIM, or just in your life, and where people can find more about GALLIM?
Thank you for the opportunity for this conversation. It's such a very special opportunity to be with you, present with you, and learning with you. I'm really inspired. I'm so inspired by your journey. It's really takes so much, I don't know, bravery and and a lot of learning that you've done, work that you've done. So you're amazing. I to share about GALLIM. So GALLIM is moving towards building a school. So it's going to be called the School of Movement, where it's not just my movement language or my methodology, but it's about sharing wisdom through movement, wisdom around healing, wisdom around personal expression, art making, dance techniques. Right now, all of our virtual practice or all of our studio practice is going to be under the School of Movement, but the hope is that it will actually be in a building at some point. GALLIM is also, it's like, it's really saying like, oh God, we've been doing all these things, but we've never really called it anything. We've never given it that sort of recognition. So, we're working a lot in our education, which is School of Movement and community building. So we're trying to make our programs very accessible, available, and they're really different. Some of them are virtual, some of them are live, some of them are performative, a lot of them are conversations or events or gatherings, or like we have this thing called Sundays in the Park. Yeah. And so you can just take a walk. We choose these just brilliant practitioners, and they choose what park they want to walk in, and you can go take a walk with this wonderful person. And at first it was professional development, like asking questions on like, how do I move in this field? How do I do stuff in New York? But then it's kind of shifted to more existential questions, more. So it's really, and the artist chooses what they want to talk about. So we're building, and that's just an example of a few of the community programs that we're building. So that's a big focus. And then in terms of art making, we're celebrating our 15-year anniversary. So we're going to have a gala in New York City at Chelsea Factory, October 20th and 21st. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do a lot of dancing from the last 15 years and just celebrate the people that have made GALLIM, the incredible moving artists, the administrators, educators. So it's going to be a blast. But I'm long-term working on the adaptation of a film to theater. It's not just a dance work. It's not going to be a dance piece. It's more of a theater, music, movement, dance extravaganza. So that's what I'm working on, and hopefully soon I can tell you what film it is. But I can't tell you that.
Okay.
And I have a few exciting commissions coming up with other dance companies.
Amazing, Andrea. Thank you so much. I will leave links on this video in the description box of, maybe if you're okay, Instagram and just the website, so people can just dive in and see some of the things that are on offer through GALLIM and stay in touch with you. And I just want to close this conversation by again, so much gratitude for, again, I think the word that comes is generosity, brilliance for sure, and creativity, not just in the dance making, but I feel like, you just give it a great example with the Sunday in the Park, the idea of just creatively thinking of how, again, can we be of service to our communities through this incredible field of dance. And so thank you, Andrea, for all that you do and all that you are in the world. I feel your warmth so strongly, and it's been incredible to sit with you and have this conversation. I know it will be a blessing to many who get to watch this. So thank you.
Oh my gosh, it's my thanks to you. is such a source of wisdom and joy and connection. So thank you for letting me be part of that. I really appreciate it. Thank you.